Hey, Carl, now that Pulsar Security is going to be sponsoring the podcast directly, you want to hear the ad copy that we came up with?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, get ready for this. In a world full of security challenges.
No. We can't say in a world.
Come on, that sounds perfect.
You think we should?
It's like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie
you
cliche.
You think we should leave it open for services on Mars? Is that what you're saying? I mean,
you can't.
Okay.
All right. Just go ahead and read the rest of it.
Can I say in a world or no?
Go for it. I don't care.
In a world full of security challenges, trust is everything.
Well, that's true.
At Pulsar Security, we are enabling organizations to thrive safely in an ever-changing digital world.
Yeah.
Our experts conduct cutting-edge cybersecurity services, ensuring your business stays one step ahead of threats.
All good.
Experience peace of mind as we deliver robust solutions tailored to your needs. Your security is our priority. I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
Choose Pulsar Security for a safer tomorrow. Visit us at pulsarsecurity.com. Empower your digital journey with confidence. Security starts here.
Okay. I like everything but
okay.
in a world.
It worked for Batman.
I do like to dress dark and in hoodies.
Now, this is serious stuff here, man. You're talking about keeping companies safe.
Yeah, we are talking about that.
Like cyber superheroes. Come on, Carl.
Conjure up images of the Predator, you know?
Well, we should have done this from the start. So now we are officially sponsoring Security This Week by Pulsar Security.
Well, good luck with your ad.
Thanks.
Hey, guys, I was going to share some oil puns today, but I realized they're far too crude for this show.
That's a slippery topic.
Our listeners are more refined than that.
Oh, my.
Pretty slick, huh? Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, Carl?
I'm all right. This is Security This Week. I'm Carl Franklin. That's Dwayne LaFlotte, and that's Patrick Hines. And, of course, every week we look at the follies that happened last week in security, or this week, or last week. Yeah, last week.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we tell you what you need to know, and then we laugh. Because what else are you going to do?
Yeah, right.
Well, we could cry, but
yeah,
it makes for less engaging radio.
Sure. And, you know, since we told you what to do about it, there's no reason why you shouldn't laugh.
That's right.
Right. Okay, where do you want to start? CISA?
CISA.
Always a good place to start.
CISA.
CISA makes sense to me.
Yeah. CISA says SciSense hack impacts critical infrastructure orgs. Don't say that 10 times fast.
I was just going to say.
Dear God. CISA SciSense.
So what is SciSense?
I think I could do it.
SISENSE. What is that?
So SciSense is it's an analytics platform.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally designed for monitoring and managing and gathering data about infrastructure.
Okay.
And some of that's operational technology. So when you start talking about power grids, sewage plants, that sort of stuff, a lot of that technology in there is called OT, operational technology.
Right.
And it's entirely different than normal technology, if you will.
Or IT.
Like we have computers and routers and switches and that sort of stuff, and they talk on TCP/IP and, you know, the civilized internet world. And when you start talking operational technology, it's all sorts of different protocols. Yeah, they may use
completely uncivilized.
Bare knuckle world.
Completely uncivilized. Right.
There are no protocols.
Yeah, there are no protocols.
Their knuckles scrape the ground when they walk.
So it's, yeah, and you imagine you have all of these different types of devices, whether it's valves or something that pulls the rods into the cooling tank or whatever it may be, right? So they're all entirely different, designed by different companies, different protocols, and that sort of stuff. So analytics are usually important on that.
And this is, again, a supply side problem.
Yes.
Right? We talk about this a lot, is a lot of the military and government weaknesses have more to do with their vendors. And this would be another example.
Mm-hmm.
Of that.
Yeah. So SciSense had a recent breach that impacted critical infrastructure organizations. And what did they do? What was the hack? What was the nature of it?
Yeah, so they're not releasing, because this data is monitoring and maintaining a lot of information from operational technology companies like power grids and that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're not giving away a lot of information as to what's going on, really. The recommendations here, if you are running SciSense, is to go and reset passwords and make sure that, you know, you're your organization hasn't been breached or isn't compromised at this point.
Right.
Yeah, and Patrick's right. I mean, this very much seems like a very similar supply chain attack, right? Where Sisense is a piece of software that was brought in-house. And then the attack on the software itself is allowing, advanced persistent threats or attackers to actually come through the firewalls and do nasty things. But
yeah,
this is our general warning for the day. If you're running Sisense, go and update. And,
They're really not giving away much.
Yeah. Okay. So patch if you got it.
Yeah.
If you're running a power grid, go.
Is patching really the recommendation, or is it more about you should just change your passwords and make sure your settings are correct?
Yeah, I mean, you should always make sure settings are correct. In this particular case, they're saying you should go out and make sure that you change passwords. And here's generally why. There may be a patch, there may not be a patch, who knows. But even if there is a patch for this, if it's running operational technology, there's no gas plant, power plant, nuclear power plant on the world who's going to go, you know what? Let me just go apply a patch now. Let's see how it goes.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
We would hope.
Like us in the corporate world, we have the luxury of saying, oh my gosh, let's apply a patch as soon as possible so we're secure. But when you start talking about things that, may explode or take out city blocks, you probably want to make sure it works first.
Right. But if there's not a patch, it could be that their systems, their back-end management systems were available for a short time and they got access to keys or to hashes or to something that doesn't have a patch as a result.
Right.
But
so
still
changing the
requires you to
passwords.
change passwords.
Yep. So
the point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of ways for your vendors to drop the ball, and it doesn't always it's not always an indicator whether they have a patch or not, whether they actually drop the ball.
And here's a little foreshadowing. Should you use LastPass to control those passwords?
I think that should be your last choice.
Well, no,
okay.
I'd stay away from it.
We'll get to that one later.
They're not going to be a sponsor anytime soon, I'm pretty sure.
No.
Them
in China.
So this next one was actually a pretty big story. It's not really sexy, but it's pretty dangerous. So why don't you introduce this one, Dwayne?
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody out there who follows any cybersecurity news, even if it's just tangentially, like, oh yeah, I follow security this week or whatever, you're going to notice in your feed, Palo Alto has been everywhere this week. This started probably 4 or 5 days ago, where literally every other either tweet I saw or news article was about this PAN OS or Palo Alto Networks OS.
Yeah, we're not talking about the city. We're talking about the company, Palo Alto.
Yeah, so Palo
Networks.
Alto puts out network devices, right? And firewalls and VPN concentrators and all sorts of other stuff. In this particular case, the PAN OS, there is a 0-day. So one that's not patched, that is actively being exploited on the internet. The thing that's a little bit more damaging about this is Palo Alto devices are yes, they're firewalls and yes, they can be damaging, but they're also devices that have been approved to run on military and government networks. So this is where you start, there's a little bit more of an escalation.
Yeah.
Because these devices are sitting there and protecting sometimes more sensitive things than just normal, office docs and that sort of stuff.
All right. So it's a 0-day. So as of this recording anyway, there's no patch. But you should be watching for it because as soon as it's available, you're going to want to update.
Strangely enough, it's the newer versions of the PAN OS that are vulnerable.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. And let me double check on the patch. Hold on. Give me 1 second here. Okay. So if you implement PAN OS Firewall Palo Alto running versions 10.2, 11.0, or 11.1, it is recommended you update to PAN OS Firewall at least version 10.2.9 H1, 11.0.4 H1, or 11.1.2 H3. So there are patches available. They've been available just for a couple days now.
So I guess it's not a 0-day anymore then?
It's a 1-day now.
Nope, not a 0-day anymore. Yeah, when this came out last week, it would be a 1-day right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good and very scary. So let's talk about LightSpy. LightSpy returns. Renewed espionage campaign targets Southern Asia and possibly India. What's LightSpy anyway?
So I'm always surprised that these things work. So LightSpy is an iOS implant.
Wouldn't work on me.
It would not work on Patrick. You're absolutely right. Patrick, this is where lockdown mode shines. It would not work on Patrick. And neither would Pegasus, we think. But so LightSpy is very similar to a Pegasus, right? It's a piece of software.
Neither will my browser.
Neither will.
I'm just kidding. My browser.
We still haven't told the good people what this is yet.
So
but boy,
all
was that funny.
Yeah. So LightSpy is a piece of software that can either hide in other pieces of software or get installed on your iPhone, and then can start monitoring, voice and Wi-Fi and GPS history and your Safari history and your WeChat pay data and SMS messages, phone call history, that sort of stuff. So it's spyware.
Yeah.
It's a phone takeover.
Yeah.
Right.
It basically, if you were a reporter who was saying bad things about China and that's where it originated, then they would get your phone and get control of it and be able to harvest all your information, your browser history, your Wi-Fi connection list, list of applications, control, even pictures from your camera.
and they can listen to audio. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, they own you if your phone, if this gets on your phone. So it's a rootkit is the way I would think about it for your phone.
Now, is there any way to know that you have it? Is it completely stealth? Will you notice a slowdown or anything like that?
Not generally. What's interesting about a lot of these implants is they find ways to run without causing the normal. You wouldn't notice battery might last. And this is typical. This is usually what I tell people, especially if they're running Android. If your battery really starts lasting not as long as it normally does,
right,
you probably want to make sure that you reboot. If it continues to do that, it's one of two things. You either A, the battery's dying. It's possible.
Brick it.
Yep. Or B, format it, which is a pain in the butt. Reinstall your apps by going to the App Store.
Right.
And monitor. And if you notice formatting it and installing none of your apps, the battery's much better. It's clearly there was one app that was running all the time.
Well, also, how else are you going to get it except by installing an app? So if you reinstall your apps, chances are you're going to reinstall the LightSpy again.
Yeah, and according to this, for example, with LightSpy, in the article we're going to post, this would be hard for sort of people who don't play around with their iPhone and check everything out, but there are hashes for what they call indicators of compromise. So the report does include a comprehensive list of files that are hashed. So what's the MD5 of a particular file? I guess let me break that down. So the people who don't listen to this all the time, a hash is, think of it as a one-way encryption algorithm.
Yeah.
Where I can take any amount of data and I can distill it down into a unique, 16-bit or 32-bit character set of data. And anytime something changes, so if I had a letter, for example, I sent to Patrick, I could create a hash for that letter and I could send it to him. And he could then verify, has anything changed in the letter? Has any of the words changed in the letter? Right?
Right. So if he has your hash and he has the document, he could hash the document and compare the hashes.
Correct. And he could say, oh, this actually came from Dwayne and it's okay and it hasn't changed.
Right.
But if Carl had intercepted the message in between and changed a lowercase a to a capital A, right? Doesn't change the meaning much. But from an ASCII standpoint, the computer sees a lowercase a as different than an uppercase a. So when you hash it, the hash comes out differently, right? So we know it's been modified.
If I put a little more cracked black pepper on my hash, he's going to say,
and hashing.
It's a little too salty now.
It's actually a thing, salting and hashing.
Know,
but anyways, we won't go into that. So they've actually released a list of the files. If you were compromised by this, the browser history, the Wi-Fi list, the camera shot, the loader, there's a loader, a core implant, etc. They released a list of those files and what the MD5 hashes are. So you could go through and figure it out.
Grandma Franklin's never going to figure that out, though.
No, it would be really, really hard. There's also some Yara rules, which is like security rules you can put on your network to determine whether things are coming and going. But for the most part, if you're worried about this, I would format my phone and reinstall from base. And don't install. You're absolutely right, Carl. And Patrick and I have talked about this before. If you're worried that you have malware or spyware or whatever on your phone, when you format it and reinstall, don't restore from backup, of course, because you probably bring that spyware with you. And don't just say, hey, install all the apps on my phone that aren't here anymore, because you probably are going to reinstall the spyware.
Sure.
Slowly start adopting apps back in that you know are from trusted locations like Microsoft or Google or whoever. And, just check out those developers to make sure.
Is there such a thing as anti-spyware software for phones?
Called Lockdown.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, your case is becoming quite interesting for us.
Know, right?
Yeah.
Well, somebody has to do what we recommend. Somebody has to walk the walk, and
right. Dog.
I mean, the problem is that a lot of times advice is unrealistic, and I get it. But I'm trying to show that there are ways to do it. It doesn't work for everybody,
right?
And I certainly I can't say I certainly don't need it. I probably don't need to be this paranoid. But if someone doesn't try it, we don't know whether it's realistic. I don't know anybody else that runs in lockdown mode. I haven't run into anybody else who has admitted it.
Yeah.
So what you could do is run it in lockdown mode and then get another phone that's not locked.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, so the thing about lockdown mode on the iPhone is you can exempt websites and apps. You just shouldn't do that without thinking it through and doing it. So like, there's been so far one website and two apps that I have exempted, but both of them were from vendors that I trusted, and I got it from a source that I knew. And so my risk is still very low.
Okay.
But I would say,
what are the chances of somebody contracting Light Spy who isn't like, in this
Chinese dissident? Probably low. So there's always collateral damage, right? In any cyber war. So this gets out there somehow in some form of Chinese application like TikTok, and anybody could get it, right? You deploy it to every American under the age of 22 on their phone if you wanted to, just by putting it in TikTok. So really, it depends. From an antivirus standpoint, like I said, on my iPhone, for example, I run Defender. Defender does a decent job of making sure my phone is updated and making sure that there's nothing weird on my phone and that sort of stuff. So
that's Microsoft Defender, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Microsoft Defender on your iPhone, which sounds weird, but there it is.
I mean, so let's drop back for that. I know we're off topic, but Microsoft has been making Defender for a long time, and it was kind of a joke in the beginning and was trying to play catch up with all the other antivirus vendors, but they've been really just cracking away at it. And now it's kind of the gold standard for us when we create a virus. If Defender can't find it, we're golden.
Yeah.
Whereas there's things that Defender catches that other things like McAfee and those things haven't.
Right.
And so Microsoft has been they've been the tortoise to everyone else's hair. They're not making a lot of noise, but Defender's a really solid product.
Okay.
This is what I believe.
I think we should move on to YubiKey.
YubiKey.
YubiKey, of course, is a little USB key that you can use as an authentication mechanism for your PC, for websites, for lots of things. And, the whole idea was to make it more convenient to use
what could go
secure,
right?
To use secure systems. It's supposed to increase your security, but let's see what happened here. Forbes is reporting Yubico, which is the company, issues YubiKey Manager security alert for Windows users. So is this as bad as I think it sounds?
It's not. It sounds really cool, right? It's a 7.7 on the CVSS Richter scale here. And it's, we start looking at, oh my God, there's these little hardware keys that people are using to authenticate themselves to devices and computers and that sort of stuff. And if they're compromised, God, we got to scrap all these keys and we got to rebake them and we got to find a new system, whatever. And it's none of that.
Right.
Really, the crux of this is if you're using a YubiKey, that little USB key drive to authenticate, there is a YubiKey Manager piece of software that you install on your computer.
Right.
If that software is running as an administrator, there's a little web browser in there that will also be running as administrator.
Oh, that's no good.
And you can use that little web browser to then escalate your privileges on the local box. That's it.
Wow.
So important, yes. Could it happen? Sure. But not something to burn the internet over.
Privilege escalations are far less urgent than remote code executions.
And, we talked about this before, the Richter scale, as Dwayne said. 10s are the worst, right? And this is a 7 point something, but that is only if you have it, if you have the melody. But we should have another number for what are the chances that you're going to get it. It's kind of like it's kind of like COVID, right?
Right.
COVID started out really bad, and it was kind of infectious, but as it progressed, it became less. The symptoms became less severe.
Yeah.
But it became more virulent. It was easy to catch. So those are two completely different things, and we don't get that second risk factor in the number.
It's like if you had a problem with your car where if the car has a radio, it's a problem versus if the car has a radio and you subscribe to Sirius XM and listen to the 80s on 8, then it's a problem. It's just a much smaller group. And so I agree with you. It's the likelihood that it will be exploited.
Right.
Right. Well, and and I agree. Like, you see the 7.7 score and you go, oh my God, we should really worry about this. But in all honesty, we should have, part of that score is how easy it is to exploit.
Yeah.
But not how easy it is for you to be in this situation. Right.
Yeah.
And I agree. So that's where the score kind of falls down. Right. Exactly. Oddly enough, one of the recommendations here to mitigate this risk is to set Edge as your default browser.
Oh, wow.
Because if you have Chrome as your default browser, when it opens Chrome takes on the privileges of the application that it opened. Whereas Edge by default drops all elevated privileges and only opens as the user. So
Microsoft redeeming themselves from last week's show.
I know. Did not see that coming. That's the surprise ending of this story.
And now you've got Edge. More
sponsored
secure
by Microsoft. Yeah. Security this week.
All right.
If that is not the case, by the way, just so everyone knows.
Hey, Uncle Satya, can I cash that check now?
Uncle Satya.
Yeah, we wish.
Okay, so all right. On a scale from 1 to virulent, what do you think this is? Like a 2 or a 3?
I'd probably give it a 2. Honestly, if you're using a UB key and you have the UB manager, set Edge as your default browser for a little while, or just make sure you're not running it elevated.
There's unstun, Kirk out.
Yep. Yep.
All right. We'll use this opportunity to take a little break for these very important messages, and we'll be right back. And we're back. It's Security This Week. I'm Carl Franklin, it's Dwayne LaFlotte and Patrick Hines. And we've got 4 more stories here before we wrap it up. A critical vulnerability in Delinea Secret Server allows auth bypass and admin access. So let's start with what Delinea Secret Server is.
I believe it's like the key vault that we see in the cloud solutions, but it's on-prem.
Okay. So yeah, that's it. It's like Fort Knox for your secrets.
Yeah. Yeah. It's supposed to be. There was a product. What was that one that would explode if you messed with it, Dwayne?
No, that was a Mission Impossible movie.
No, seriously.
Exactly.
What were they called again? They were hardware box. They had encryption keys in them.
You're talking about the things that are on the planes that we can't talk about. Yeah.
No, there was a public company.
There's a company that actually creates these hard drives. We were working with them where they actually are tamper resistant, those things.
No, I was thinking of all the ones that we dealt with in the storage world.
And they literally explode.
Well, there's also ones there's
I
also
do not
hard
know
drives
about
that
these
are like the
exploding
F-35 and stuff. But I'm talking about the ones that we actually had one at one point, where if you put a screwdriver to the back of the thing and you didn't deactivate it, it would explode.
Like literally, boom.
Like
boom.
Enough to destroy the cryptographic keys.
Oh, okay, but not enough to like harm you.
It was a rack-mounted device.
I don't remember it.
Wow.
Was that from NetApp?
It was in that NetApp age when we were dealing with a lot of storage stuff.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
But they had a big contract with the government because basically it was a secret store and it kept all your cryptographic keys. And if you took a screwdriver to it, there wasn't enough explosives to bring down the building or anything. It probably wouldn't even kill you, but it would definitely destroy the chips.
I love how it's a probably.
You'd have to go to the hospital, though. I mean,
yeah, if you're the sales guy, it's probably not going to kill you. Probably.
It's all right. Don't worry. Just don't
You
do
probably-
that, okay?
You may lose a digit. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So this is a vulnerability in their SOAP API. Ooh.
Oh.
Ah.
An ancient technology from
Do you
the
guys
90s.
remember? Do you guys remember when communicating with SOAP was not through an envelope, but it was through a bubble? Do you remember SOAP bubbles? They
Yes.
were like, we're gonna have soap and we're gonna have bubbles, and you're like, no, no, stop.
I remember super elastic bubble plastic. You remember that stuff that smelled like
Yeah.
benzene and gave you cancer when you inhaled it, but it was fun to play with?
Benzene. Yes. Yeah. I do remember that, actually.
All right. Anyway, so what's the story? Is it a patch? Is it...
Yeah, there's a patch out there. So update your instance of Secret Server to at least version 11.7.00001,
Okay.
which is hilarious because 11.7.00000.
5 zeros and a 1 after the decimal point.
But if you do 6 zeros
Come on.
after the second decimal, you're in trouble.
Why?
You add that little 1, you are good to go.
Oh
You're
my
safe.
God.
Oh.
Why are they really going to have like 1 million sub versions
I don't know.
of 11.7?
But it's, so it's interesting. I like this story in a couple different ways. One, it's an authentication bypass through the SOAP, simple object access protocol. So through an API call into the server.
Right.
And I've seen this in the last month several times where we're auditing a customer and the front end of a particular application is hyper secure, doing a great job. And then the back end APIs are completely open because they assume the only person calling the back end is going to be the front end, right? And this is a similar thing where you just go as a developer, right? We're all developers. We're like, I don't need to use the front end. I'll just use the APIs and call
Right.
them directly. And that's where most development falls apart. And they go, there's no authentication anymore. We just assume you guys are who you're supposed to be.
Right.
Right? Because you're here.
We're all friends here.
Actually, we're right. It works in the physical world too. A lot of times when we break into a place, like people assume, oh, well, you're here. You must work for, XYZ's company. I'm like,
Right.
nope.
You even have the shirt.
Oh, yeah. 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 You have the shirt. What we found, and here's,
Hey, why don't you show all the podcast listeners the shirt? Go ahead. Pull it up.
wait,
Go ahead.
I'm going to give a little criminal career advice here for just 1 second.
All right. Well, let's play the music.
It's criminal career advice.
Okay. So if you want to break into any organization in the world, you need one thing, one item. Can you guess what it is?
Swiss Army knife,
No, Patrick's got it. It's a clipboard. You hold a clipboard.
screwdriver.
You're official. You're
Paperclip.
supposed to be there anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
You could be breaking into a McDonald's. You could be breaking into a government facility. You got a clipboard.
And a white lab coat.
People are like, oh, come on through.
Gotta have a white lab coat.
You do. And you have to
Depends
have a
on the
piece of paper on there. Wait, with a bunch of check boxes.
Yeah.
To say,
And a
no, you're
stethoscope
looking at stuff.
and a hat with a rubber chicken.
A rubber chicken. And
And a little horn that
14.
goes,
They will still let you in if you have that clipboard. I'm just saying. Clipboard's huge. And if you have a clipboard and a hard hat, they won't even
oh my
look at
God.
you.
Forget
You just
about
walk,
it.
Then they're gonna
you
run.
just walk right in.
They're going to run away from you. Please don't report me.
Little tag that says OSHA.
Right.
Walk
Or
in
bomb
anywhere.
disposal.
And if anybody looks at you sideways, just say, what's your name? Start writing.
Gotta get a shirt that says bomb disposal unit, and in the back it says, if I'm running, try to keep up.
That's great. I love that. Okay.
That's awesome.
Well, this is a joke, kids. Don't try this at home.
No, do not try this at home or anywhere else.
I mean, listen, if you want to walk around at home with a clipboard, by all means. This is one thing you can try at home. Just don't try it somewhere else.
Try it out at home first. Okay. So are we done with this one? Should we move on to Stegano armor or Amor? Stegano
armor.
Amor? How do you say this?
Stegano armor for steganography.
It's Amor and not armor. I misread that.
Stegano
Yeah,
armor.
we should tell people what steganography is.
Steganomore. What's that?
Well, we did something on steganography a long time ago. That's where you sort of hide data in an image, right?
Yeah. or a video.
that you can't really see, but it's there.
Like,
Right.
so like if I
even audio.
If I gave you a movie of
Yeah.
like a copy of Shrek in French, right?
Okay,
Which I bring that up because we found that
That's
on our honeypot servers.
That's a visual right there.
And if I
Oddly
take the
specific.
Shrek
corner,
speaking French.
if I take the corner pixels, then for every frame I get half a byte
Yeah.
that I can manipulate, because it's not like you're going to notice if it's black or white or
You stupid donkey.
if it's off.
Don't get.
You gotta say it in French. Pas français.
Yeah, but I mean, just call the donkey
but-
stupid.
But if you do that, then those 4 corner bits, if they're, white or black or transparent or
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
then you're not going to notice. But it's
Right.
half a byte per frame.
Yeah.
And so now I can send you information as long as you know how to read it.
Right.
And it can be very difficult to detect.
All right. So this attack uses steganography to target 320 organizations globally.
Yeah.
But I'm still hung up on this word, steganomore.
Steganomore. Yeah, and all
I don't know how to say it, but
it's what's interesting about steganography from that standpoint is, Patrick's right. You can just modify some of the pixels and the colors of the pixels, but it's even more nefarious than that. Like there's so much data
yeah.
associated with a pixel.
Right.
It's not just RGB. It's not just RGB and, intensity.
Right.
Usually there's 4 values there that are visible. But then there are tons of other values that are not visible.
Yeah, the alpha channel, for example.
Yeah, exactly. That don't change anything that we would notice,
Mm-hmm.
by the eye.
Yep.
But you can bake a lot of data into. So, and what a lot of people will do if they're doing steganography and hiding data is they'll put it in the low order bits that you won't see.
Yeah.
And you can put a lot of information in there. And for this, particular case, this threat actor, who was it? TA558, rolls off the tongue.
Oh yeah.
So what they do is they conceal their malicious code in pictures. So a threat hunter who might be trying to look at, hey, where is this coming from? Or, oh my gosh, it looks like it's just calling out to this web server. Let me see what that code is. They're just going to see a picture of a lamp or a
Right.
car or whatever. Unless they really truly follow the process of the executable that infected whatever computer, then they're going to see, oh, it downloads this picture, but then it strips the low order bits and starts recompiling, rebuilding an executable and that sort of stuff.
JPEG files also have a space where you can just put data.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you can see it if you're using a reader
Yep.
that reads it, but it's just text,
Did you ever watch the Contraband Seized at the Border show where they show different border crossings and how people have tried to smuggle stuff in?
Wait a minute. Is that contraband seized at thebordershow.com?
No.
Now I got to go register that.
It's but basically they show like the ways that they try to smuggle money and drugs into the
Yeah.
country, and they'll do X-rays and random checks and things like that, and so that's the same kind of thing. They're smuggling data into the organization so it won't get caught by the blue teams, people who are trying to defend.
Yeah. Interesting. Hiding it in the pocket.
Nothing here but oranges
Right.
and some black tar heroin.
All right. So apparently the attacks begin with malicious emails containing seemingly innocuous document attachments like
Yep.
Excel and Word files. By the way, those are not seemingly innocuous. Anybody
No.
who ever sees an Excel or Word attachment should not click on it.
Especially with this, these even have VB script,
Oh, man.
which, come on, guys. Oh, pick up the game a little bit. But,
Yeah.
if you see, and Carl's right, if you see a Word doc, a PowerPoint, whatever, Excel spreadsheet from somebody you don't know or weren't expecting, even if it came from somebody you know, don't open it. And then when you open it, don't say enable.
Right.
And when you say enable, just shut your computer off.
Enable editing. Yeah. And also we did a story, I don't know, a year ago or so ago where the default was to enable editing.
Yeah.
It got changed.
Yep.
But here's a good reason to have something like a Google account, because you can upload an Excel spreadsheet to a Google sheet and it's only going to read the data that it needs for the sheet. Right. So that's a nice way to filter it out. And then you could download it again as an Excel sheet, and it probably will be okay. But I don't know that for sure. I'm just guessing. I mean, if there's script in there, what does it do with the script? I mean, Google isn't going to run VB script.
Nope. Yeah, Google won't run it. Actually, honestly, you upload it to Google. Google will probably say there's a virus in this document.
Probably will, yeah.
So, but either way, yeah, just don't try and open things. And honestly, like, this is like handling live nuclear material. Like, we're trained in this, in how we would take this document.
Handling live nuclear material?
Yeah, well, that too. But
well, Patrick might be.
we take these documents that come in from potential hackers, and we know how to copy them somewhere where they're not going to run. Mm-hmm. We know how to not double click on it. We have all the protections in place, and we can upload it. Yep. I can see plenty of users going out there. Oh, I'm just going to take it out of my email and drag it to my desktop, and then try and upload it to Google. And like I said, just be careful. It is like dealing with live nuclear material. You do it right, everything's great. You trip and drop it on the ground, and you now have to evacuate the city. So be careful.
That's a good reason to also have a VM for things like this. Virtual machine. Okay, good enough. Let's talk about a critical PuTTY vulnerability that exposes private keys. Immediate action required. All right, so PuTTY.
Love it when they expose the private keys.
Is an SSH client. So it's a way that you can make a connection between your computer and another computer and have it encrypted along the way.
Have you guys downloaded PuTTY recently?
Not recently.
Okay. If you go to the PuTTY download page, it looks like it's from the 1920s. Like it belongs on 2 cows.
Yep.
Like it is
it's an anachronism.
Yeah. You look at it and you're like, I'm pretty sure this is a virus. And it's not. Just the development team guy behind PuTTY doesn't put a lot of time into the website, but it's a fantastic tool.
Really.
Honestly, PuTTY's awesome. Right. Yeah. So the PuTTY gives you the ability to connect to not only SSH, like secure shell, but it'll do like telnet, it'll do serial communications, it does all sorts of different types of communications.
Yeah.
The scary thing about this is if I were to create, let's say, a connection to an SSH server and I use secure keys, secure shell, right, SSH, you can actually use a cryptographic key, a private key, public key pair.
Right.
Public key up on the server, the private key you hold inside of your PuTTY client. And then when you try and connect to the server, you don't have to give it a username and password.
Right.
Or you could give it a username, but no password, and it uses the certificate. Super strong.
Yeah.
The problem here is that those certificates aren't as random as they should be. And even worse than that is the fact that we've said PuTTY, which every engineer out there will know, but the vulnerability also extends to FileZilla.
Oh, no kidding.
WinSCP, Tortoise Git, and Tortoise SVN. So they're all using the same ECDSA P521 keys. So they're all vulnerable to this same style of attack.
Now check this out. Well, I just pulled up FileZilla because I used it, and I checked for updates. There's a new version, and it says right here, fixed PuTTY private key recovery vulnerability CVE 202431497.
That's the one.
If you use the keys to connect to SSH and FTP services, you should regenerate. Now I don't, but I'm going to install the new version anyway.
Yeah, why not? You should. Yeah, absolutely. And listen, if this compromise, like I said, because the keys aren't as cryptographically random as they should be, attackers can exploit that sort of bias in the randomness to reconstruct the private key after collecting 60 or so signatures created by the compromised key.
Wow.
So if the compromised key creates 60 connections, I can then gather that data and then from there rebuild the private key. So yeah, pretty
you've got enough
disastrous,
samples.
pretty important, right? And It's very similar to the way WEP used to work when you used to crack Wi-Fi. You gather enough samples of encrypted traffic.
like the rest of us used to crack Wi-Fi, Dwayne, right?
You back in the day when you used to crack
we'll
WEP.
live in ours, okay?
I still crack Wi-Fi.
I know, right?
I just forgot.
Back when you were breaking into Wi-Fi, you remember. Elementary school.
I was breaking into Wi-Fi while you were in diapers, kid.
And last week.
But same thing.
I'm sorry.
Cryptographically, if the way cryptanalysis works is if you get a large enough sample and your initialization, I won't go into all that, but if your initialization vector and the algorithm
you're
using,
gonna start talking nonsense too.
It's just crazy talk. Blah, 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 blah. Get the freem flabble, grab a sabas with a murph and gasm.
Impossible to do pattern analysis on something that's random enough. And the problem is here it wasn't. So
all right. That'll work at family dinner next week.
Right. Bring up initialization vector at dinner tonight, kids.
Yeah, that's always a conversation starter.
It's very, very politically sensitive. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Don't tell
everyone has a different opinion on it.
Right. And if your mom busts in and says, listen, the initialization vector is important because the first block of any chain block cipher obviously would be the same without one.
Is your mom Dilbert's mom?
Obviously.
Do you ever see the Dilberts where his mom, he's like, Mom, I have a firewall. What are you doing? She's like, not much of a firewall, is it?
Those are the best.
Yeah, I always tell the joke that
moms can do anything, including hacking firewalls.
I always tell the story that my first wife was a nurse and I'm a programmer. And so, dinner time conversations would be like, I'd say, hey, how was work, honey? And she'd say, oh, I had a jaundiced baby. I catheterized the guy. All right. I mean, I watch ER. I know what she's talking about, right?
Sure.
She says, how was your day? And I would say stuff like, yeah, I generated some private keys and deployed them to the GAC.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
The GAC.
Oh, yeah, wow.
I think
good.
Dr. Seuss talked about that once.
That's good, right?
Pretty sure.
GAC. Isn't that a delicacy on the Klingon homeworld?
No, that's GAC.
I think that's GAC. Yeah, exactly. Your pronunciation is off,
deployed
Patrick.
him to the GAC with blood wine. Now bring me those sandwiches or I'll disembowel you right here. All right. Anyway, shall we get to our clickbait?
Please.
Let's
All
do
right.
it.
LastPass, hackers targeted employee in failed deepfake CEO call. So hackers targeted an employee of LastPass with this deepfake call, supposedly from the CEO. But before we talk about this, I got to tell you something. I'm a Blazor developer, right? Blazor is a web framework from Microsoft. And I noticed that just last week, I pulled up one of my Blazor server applications in the browser and I had this error. And the error was some in the Blazor JavaScript itself, like not my error in my code, right?
That's what he always says.
And then I pulled it up in Edge and it worked just fine. And then I found out that it was the LastPass plugin. Now I don't have LastPass anymore, but apparently the plugin was still lurking.
Oof.
So took the LastPass plugin out of Chrome, boom, everything started working again. So even when you don't use it, it'll screw you up.
It's still there. It's still there.
That's a good idea. So the advice we give, and I gave this advice at a talk the other day, is if you spend 15 minutes a week just checking things, passwords,
Uninstalling.
learning something, you'll really clean up a lot of that stuff. And one of the things is to check for extensions in your browser.
Yep.
Was it a browser extension?
Yeah, it was.
So just check your browser extensions once a month and see if there's anything that's untoward or that shouldn't be there and disable it. And if you miss it, bring it back.
Yep.
But uninstall anything you don't need.
Like right now I'm using Chrome and in the upper right it says finish update. So I'll just click on it.
And that's the end of security.
And there's
this week.
Carl.
Hey. Yeah. I'll be here all week.
All right. So somebody explain what happened with LastPass.
So this is a goofy one. And I think it's because LastPass is such the headline grabber at this point. But there was a threat actor who, and it's not hard to do anymore, especially with someone like us. For example, you have a podcast or there's, YouTube recordings or whatever of you talking. It's really easy to take your voice, upload it. Actually, a new tool came out from Microsoft for digital assistants, so it makes this even easier. But you can upload the voice to it. It does analytics, and then you can get them to say anything.
Right.
And this is what was happening here is,
Before AI, I did this by hand. I actually made Ralph Nader talk dirty
Oh my God, that's awesome.
on the first episode of Mondays.
You are the problem.
Yeah,
You're the
but
problem.
I did it by hand.
You
I scoured all of his speeches for parts of speech and words, and then sewed them together
my
in an
God,
audio
that's
editor.
impressive.
It took me weeks.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Now you
See,
kids come around with your AI, and you can just go, and there it is, instant comedy.
I wonder what software the aliens use when they change your radio dial to say the message. You've seen that on shows, right?
Which is hilarious. You think they'd be better at this point? Yeah.
Well, you think they'd use a premium service like Sirius? Is that it?
No, I'm just saying. Like, okay, listen. You're a super advanced alien race,
Yeah.
and we look like silly monkeys. We already have a technology that can take anybody's voice and make them say anything. So why wouldn't they just be like, you know what? We're just going to take, Biden's voice or Obama's voice or whoever's voice, and we have enough recordings of it, and we're just going to make him say whatever we want him to say over the radio, right?
Right.
How hard is that?
How hard is it? Well, the good news is that the attack failed. It was a phishing attack, obviously, and it failed. But they chose to share the details of the incident to warn other companies that AI-generated deepfakes are already being used in executive impersonation fraud campaigns. So if you're the CEO of a company, remove all public audio from the internet of you speaking.
Good luck with that.
That's what you should do. You should start today. In Patrick says 15 minutes a week.
Clean it all up.
And, in 4,792 weeks, you may have put a dent in the,
maybe.
Honestly, if you're spending 15 minutes a week of really like either learning something or cleaning something up, you are ahead of 99.99% of the population. You're not probably ahead of us because I spend that probably per hour.
Okay, lockdown mode.
But everyone else is spending 0.00 seconds per week worrying about this.
You're on Patrick's list just by listening to this show. So,
right? Ooh. But this is a feel good story, right? This is LastPass winning some. Good for them.
That's right.
That engineer did a good job. It was a failed attack. Good job.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's giving them the consolation prize, but the participation award for security.
It's probably unfair for us to tar LastPass the way we have. It's just that they had two really big strikes, and we're waiting for the third. And all the other vendors, whether it's Bitwarden or for 1Password, they could be the next ones that do something supremely stupid, but they haven't. And that's the problem with this. In the security world, your reputation is everything.
Yeah.
And all it takes is one. And then, and you might be like, the first one came, we're like, you know what? Anybody can have a bad day. When CISA had that mistake a month ago, we were like,
happens.
You know what?
Yep.
It happens. So, but when it happened twice to a company, it didn't seem to learn the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I think they could come back. I think they could show that they're, but they're going to have to work a lot harder than everyone else in order to win back everybody's trust, I think. But things like this are helpful because at least it's not a story of how they fell for it. It's a story of how they resisted.
Right. See?
Right.
Winning.
Yeah. Dwayne, is there anything else before we end?
Yeah. No, absolutely. So we're talking about deep fakes, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about voice and pictures and video and that sort of stuff. There's this sort of a hot button right now in Microsoft. So there's this article, VASA1, lifelike audio-driven taking faces generated in real time. So there's this paper, which you can download. Actually, it's Microsoft.com, but hosted by Microsoft, where these researchers took a single image of a face and audio clips, and they can get them then to realistically say anything.
Wow.
So you don't even need an entire video. You just need a single image of a person, and you can get them to move around and say things and whatnot. And Microsoft has all these services readily available. So people right now are saying Microsoft has created a deepfake generator. Good for them. But realistically. The technology's out there, but that link is actually really kind of cool.
So there's obviously stuff to create audio from samples of people's audio. So then you take that audio and then you take a picture of the person, use this Vasa thing, and you've got a complete video deepfake.
Yeah, and you get a complete video and voice deepfake in real time. That's the key.
Does that mean you can just like type what you want it to say, press enter, and it says it?
Or say it, and it will then move the face and say it like that person would.
Yeah, but
So
you want it to
frames a
ultimately
second.
be in that person's voice, right?
We should do.
Yep. Oh yeah, it will be. Yeah.
We should do an episode where the three of us have different voices.
And that would be pretty fantastic.
I'll be James Earl Jones.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Going for the James Earl,
I'll be Gallagher.
the Darth Vader himself,
Oh, then I can say I'm your father.
and not have it be creepy. Thank you for that, Patrick.
It's already creepy. Too late.
Too late.
So, in this particular case, it says real time. Our method generates video frames, 512 by 512 in size at 45 frames per second in an offline batch processing mode. Can support about 40 frames a second in online streaming.
Wow.
With preceding latency of 170 milliseconds.
That's
evaluated
pretty
on a
damn good.
single desktop.
That's pretty darn good.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's 170 millisecond lag, but honestly, I don't know that you would normally notice that.
We'd probably have
try
something
that.
like that just because the internet connections.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm going to try that. Then I could like phone in my Blazer Train videos.
Oh, do
There
it.
you go.
Yeah.
No, thanks. I'll keep my green screen. Thank you. All right. That's it. We'll see you on behalf of myself, Dwayne, and Patrick. We'll see you next week. And don't take any wooden nickels.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.